Well, thank you for the turnout.
For 6 weeks, the police commissioner said nothing. Then he called a press conference.
Let us have no doubt that the corruption so far discovered is not systemic.
Give us your new definition.
Systemic clearly means, if we take its ordinary definition in the dictionary, affecting the entire organism. This is not systemic corruption.
Doesn't the attitudes of your officers and your management of the force is at stake here, is it not, Commissioner? Do you acknowledge that evidence from officers Duncan de Mol, Kim Thompson, Neville Scullion, Steve Pentland, John Swan and others who've rolled over indicate that there's been no effective discipline or supervision of police who could get drunk on duty or absent themselves as they saw fit?
Quentin, I don't want to comment.
Your primary objective is to restore public confidence in the police service of New South Wales. Shouldn't you at least offer your resignation to the state government?
No, Quentin.
Why not?
Well, the answer is no. And it's not appropriate that
you a major deficiency in your management.
It seemed as though a door had opened. Once it opened, there was a race to come through it. The more tapes, the more films, the more rollovers we had, the more people came forward. And to the point where on one night I had so many telephone calls from police that we just couldn't deal with all the calls. It's not too dramatic to describe it as a tsunami. We were inundated with people rolling over.
In that sense, that paranoia worked to the Commission's advantage.
And it got to the point where we really didn't know what kind of admissions would be the next admissions we would get.
Evidence of corruption led out of the Cross to police commands covering the state, then crossed the border and pointed straight at the Australian Federal Police.
That was a deep shock for me, as it was a deep shock to a number of people who'd known these officers, and it was an extremely sad day, not just for the New South Wales Police, but obviously for the Federal Police.
I've told you before I get you, Neddy. Well, are you interested in the heroin job or not?
Yeah.
Right.
The same.
Right. Now, do you know the gang Cabramatta?
The evidence broadcast to the world included detectives selling heroin out of the back of police stations, cops running prostitution rings, and senior detectives trading in child pornography.
Now listen, alright, also, as far as his lawyer is all right, $150, okay? And if I can't do any deals for that.
Further evidence of entrenched corruption led all the way to the top.
Well, yesterday it was an assistant commissioner. Today it was a chief superintendent. The New South Wales police inquiry continues to move into the very top echelons of the force. With the shock resignation of Ray Donaldson, the state's fourth-ranked officer, still fresh, there was more drama today when it was revealed they'd been bugging the commander of the Fraud Enforcement Agency.
Claims of bribery and corruption in the Joint Task Force have already led to the standing down of Chief Superintendent Bob Lysart. But the man who instigated this Royal Commission says the buck stops at the very top. Former independent MP John Hatton wants the resignation of the Police Commissioner.
Lauer must, as a senior executive officer in the police force, take responsibility for either knowing and being involved or not knowing and not being involved.
There was a price to pay for the model that was adopted. No doubt there was a lot of trauma in many homes of many corrupt police.
A lot of those officers, one couldn't help have empathy for as they related the history and how they'd got involved in serious criminal activity.
It was not easy to see grown men break down. It was not easy to sit with people in rooms whilst they came to grips with the fact that they'd made wrong decisions 20 years ago, sometimes more, and that they now had to deal with that They were crucifying their careers. They were losing their life plans sometimes.
For some, the public revelations were too much to bear.
Another consequence of the Police Royal Commission was uncovered this morning with the discovery of the body of former Bondi police officer Clinton Molar.
Life for police officer Wayne Johnson began to fall apart earlier this year. Named at the Police Royal Commission and with his marriage on the rocks, the 31-year-old ended it all yesterday, shooting his wife Lana and then killing himself. Their 2-year-old daughter was unharmed.
Now, nobody wants to get to the situation where somebody takes their own life, but does this mean that if somebody was particularly sensitive and fragile, that their involvement in corruption is going to be hidden, and yet somebody who is apparently robust, a la Fowler, gets exposed? Where do you draw the line?
We did decide, after significant exposure of what was happening, it was necessary to try and bring this to a head.
Now, it's a matter I need to deal with this morning of considerable importance to the Royal Commission. Yesterday, the government approved the proposal for an amnesty which was advanced by this Royal Commission some weeks ago. In essence, what is offered to corrupt police officers who come forward from today and make full admissions as to their corrupt activities is an amnesty from criminal prosecution.
Now, a critical aspect of a Royal Commission really is that it is not normally designed as a means of collecting evidence with a view to prosecuting people. In other words, it is not an alternative to a police investigation. Its aim is to thoroughly investigate the topic, to ventilate all the problems, and to identify possible solutions.
During those few weeks, one had the feeling that we could move to the rebuilding phase. We could move to the phase of restoring confidence in the police service, putting in place a system that ensured that this kind of thing wouldn't happen again.
Well, as long as there's greed and as long as there's human nature, and as long as there is the situation where, for example, a drug dealer can pay a police officer his yearly salary in a week, there's going to be the reality, not only the danger, but the succumbing of some people to the temptation of corrupt payments. What you have to do is to be eternally vigilant.
Wood urged urgent reform, the decriminalisation of prostitution, drug law changes, drug and alcohol testing for police, integrity testing for police, the establishment of the Police Integrity Commission, a new law under which corrupt police could be dismissed immediately based on the Commission's evidence, higher levels of education for police, and on and on.
It was a day of judgment for the world's third largest police service. Confirmation that entrenched corruption does exist, and a warning from the Royal Commissioner that it will take several years to deal with. As the first copies of Justice Wood's interim report were distributed, plans for a police corruption commission were revealed. It's a body that will use investigators and lawyers to detect and expose corruption, using the same surveillance techniques made famous by the Wood Commission.
In Wood's report, he was highly critical of Commissioner Lauer.
Do you regret saying there was no institutionalised corruption in the New South Wales Police Force?
Well, this is not an occasion for us to go back to semantics.
Under your leadership, we've seen the police service exposed as having a high level of corruption.
Well, there are some difficulties, I think.
Is that how you describe what we've seen in the last few months?
And plans for retirement. Plans for retirement, perhaps we could ask you.
Happily with my wife, Joy, gardening at this time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
10 days before the report's publication, Police Commissioner Lauer resigned.
I'm aware that there are criticisms now of the Royal Commission that it was perhaps too aggressive. I think that there is no alternative. If you are dealing with a body of people who are well trained in criminal investigations and have a long history of working together, and in particular of backing one another up if there are allegations of corrupt conduct or misconduct, you simply have to take a hard line. If we had been weak, I think we would have been swamped. We would have got nowhere. So it's not a nice thing to do, but for this kind of inquiry, there was no choice.